I want to welcome everybody to Radio Arizona RV, and this is episode number 35. And today's episode is going to be about tools that you'd want to keep in your RV toolbox, and also some smaller items to help with needed repairs. Maybe if you're out on the road or camping, something basically if a store isn't open or you don't have access to a store or someplace where you can buy some things for a needed repair. So it's pretty basic stuff, but the tools are the big push here. You can really highlight the tools that will make your life easier if you carry them in an RV. But again, this is Eric Stark with the RV Maintenance and Education Show at Radio Arizona RV, and you can listen to all of our episodes at radioarizonarv.com. And of course, there's a www in front of that. I exclude it because everybody should know by now that you don't need to type in the www. Now, as a reminder, many people are getting into the camping mode and maybe planning their spring and summer vacations. And at ArizonaRVPartsCenter.com, we have an item that's pretty cool. We sell a lot of these. It's a 45-gallon freshwater storage tank. And if you go to the search bar and type in 45 GAL, as in 45 gallon, just 45 GAL, it'll bring it up. And these things are pretty slick. We sell them on the internet, we sell them in our store, and we sell a lot of them. So they're a must-have items for the people who are out dry camping or in a situation where they want some extra water. It's a collapsible folding water tank. It folds up to about the size of a shoebox when it's empty. Pretty slick little item. Now, back to today's episode number 35, about the RV tools that you would want to keep, or tools you'd want to keep in your RV, in your RV toolbox or toolkit, if you will. Now, this episode is not my idea. It came from Carl, a listener, who sent me an email and had this and some other suggestions, and I thought this is a pretty good idea because this is pretty much how I travel. You know, I do a lot of four-wheel driving, motorcycles in the past, dirt bikes, and ATVs, and there's always certain things I would carry with me. And today with my four-wheel drive truck, there's always certain things in it. Now, I'm not going to able to rebuild an engine out on a dirt trail somewhere, but I can certainly do some other repairs or help someone if need be. And that's the other thing. Sometimes you have tools that you might never use, but if you loan them out to someone and it saves their day, or you happen to be driving down the road and they need some help and you can assist them because you have the tools, you're a hero and you feel good about yourself, you know, and then you save someone else's day and they're going to love you for it. So it's not just about yourself, it's about other fellow RVers as well. So it's a very nice thing when you have the right tools at the right time and some other little things, parts and pieces to help you in a situation, you know, that you're kind of stuck in, or you're trying to fix something and you're frustrated because you don't have the tools. You know, you have one thing rather than a bunch of things, and then you're going to your neighbors and maybe they don't have them. So it's great when you can take care of things yourself. And that's part of being a do-it-yourselfer. That's part of this show, the RV Education and Maintenance Show. You know, I want you to be able to do things yourself. And it makes life so much easier. And I see that with many of my customers. When we show them how to do something or explain to them how to do something, become self-sufficient. And it's not just, you know, young guys. It's not just guys in general. It could be the wives, the females who are RVing on their own. Maybe they lost their spouse and they want to pick up the torch and continue to RV. So all these things for a do-it-yourself are very important, but it's a self, you know, it's you're accomplishing something when you do it yourself. So as you can see, I'm highly behind the do-it-yourself mantra. I believe in it 100%. Because I am a full-on do-it-yourselfer. Now, back to the tools. I went rambling on there, which I kind of hate doing because I hate listening to shows that do that. Let's get to the point, right? That's why you're listening. So in our toolkit, if you look at your basic hand tools, which could include, you know, a cordless drill, you're gonna want to have a set of wrenches and sockets. You know, that's widespread. You're going to use them on so many different things. It could be the engine, tightening up bolts and nuts and bolts here and there, bumpers. You know, there's endless uses for that, especially with a travel trailer where you might do more suspension work, things like that. Probably more so than an RV, because the RV chassis don't seem to have the same problems as a travel trailer, a fifth wheel might, where you're going to replace leaf springs and hangers and things like that. So you want to have a set of sockets and wrenches, American metric. you're going to have to decide the brand, the quality, and on everything here, it's up to you to decide the quality, whether you want to buy brand names or you want to go to Harbor Freight and buy just what they sell. You're going to have to look at each situation, what the tool's used for. If it's a socket for replacing a spare tire, I wouldn't buy a cheap socket. I would buy a good socket, a good, pry bar, half-inch pry bar. If you need an extension, buy quality stuff there because you don't want it to break when you're trying to change a spare. But overall, it's going to be up to you. You can get mid-range tools, cheap tools, expensive tools. I always buy the better tools because I use them more often in my business and in my personal life, so that's kind of the way I go. And keep track of them too. Don't buy stuff just to lose it. So many tools today are available in sets or kits, or they come in a plastic box when everything's kind of organized. If you can get that and get away with it, do it. Buy it that way, then you keep track of something. If you do lose it, you can replace it so you're not stuck down the road. But anyways, back to the tools again. The screwdrivers, Phillips head and flathead are a must-have, different sizes, real small to pretty large. Large screwdriver sometimes be more often used as a pry bar than it will as a screwdriver, but they're handy to have. And here's a tool that a lot of people see in stores. They're generally on the counters at parts stores, Home Depot. They're right there. It's like a 6-in-1 driver. So you can change the bits out on it. It might come with, 6 different types of bits, and you can change them out. Buy something like that you can put in Torx head bits and square tip bits. Torx heads aren't used that often, but man, when you need one, you need it. You can't fake it. And you can even get Allen head bits for those, and that would be great. And then the square tip bits, the number 1 and the number 2 are used on RVs, a lot on the exterior. And again, when you have one of those, that's pretty much what you have to have. So you can't fake it. So if you get one of those, you can just change the bits, and generally the handle opens up, or you can drop in the bits, or they come in a kit. And if you can get a kit with a little assortment, buy that. And sometimes you can get kits with, the driver, the screwdriver with the different bits, and you can get it with, 50 or 100, and it'll include sockets, a lot of things that you'll be able to use around your RV that'll either go into that driver, or you can use them in a cordless drill. And with a cordless drill, you want to get it's a bit tool where the bits come in and out. I forget what it's called now. I had it in front of me and now I don't, but it'll come back to me sooner or later. But anyway, that it goes into the driver to your drill, and you tighten it down, and then you can take your bits in and out. Put one in, take one out, put one in, take it out. It's great for a wireless drill, or a cordless drill, I should say. Oh, it's called a magnetic drive guide. I knew it would come back to me. And those things are usually included in a multi-piece drive bit set. So if you buy one of those, they're usually all-inclusive. You can get 50 pieces, 100 pieces. And a lot of the bits, you'll look at them and you'll probably never use them. But, they come in such small and compact storage or cases that it's easy to store them. So that's definitely a must-have. And channel lock type pliers, and I say channel lock because that's the brand that invented this type of plier. They're the sliding adjustable pliers. They're great for a multitude of things, especially when they don't have the flat pliers portion, but it has a V shape, so you can grab onto things a little bit tighter. And a lot of guys might not know what those are, but if you go to the tool store or the do-it-yourself store or home center, just ask them for channel lock or channel lock type pliers. The channel lock type pliers are going to be cheaper than the channel lock brand, so if you're trying to save money. And of course, regular pliers, they're a must-have. In fact, there's so many tools. I'm not going to go through my list here. I'm going to post it on our website. You'll be able to find it at Radio Arizona RV under episode 35. And I'll probably just keep adding to this as things change because, I sat down and spent some time going through here, and these are things that came to my mind, and hopefully someone will email me and say, hey, Eric, you missed this, you missed that, or ask a question, why do you have that on there? I don't understand, and then I can, put a reason why, because I'm not going to explain all the tools. I'm not going to put pictures on the website either. I'm just going to have a listing here. But it'll be pretty comprehensive, and it might seem overwhelming, but a lot of these tools you might already have, so it simplifies that process. And remember, it's an RV. You definitely have room for storage. And if it's a trailer or a fifth wheel, you're pulling it with a truck. You got room for tools. So you're almost your regular everyday basic tools, mechanic type tools would be a must-have. But there are certain things like a voltmeter or a 12-volt test light. You know, when I say voltmeter, that'd be 110 volt and 12 volt. And then a 12-volt test light, those are invaluable. You know, you have electrical problems, before you call an electrician, you can do some basic testing, see if it's a fuse, a breaker, you know, the outlet you're trying to plug something into, if it's an entire circuit. But it eliminates whether it's a gigantic problem at the pedestal or a 12-volt problem that's, you know, isolated to one or two things. And I bring this up because people ask me questions all the time. You know, I have an outlet that doesn't work, and then I start asking them, did you test this? Did you test that? And that's how you start diagnosing things, by testing other parts of that circuitry. You know, if it's a 12 volt or 110 volt. You know, you have 12 volt fuses. You don't pull them out to check them. You check them with a test light. That's the easiest, quickest, and most sure way of identifying a bad fuse. Not by pulling them out and eyeballing them, especially in a dark area underneath a dash or an awkward spot. It's easier with a test light. I mean, that's hands down the way to check a 12 volt fuse. Cordless drill and drill bits, must have. And here's something quite often people don't think about. They're not expensive, is a Pex Tubing Cutter. This kind of goes into the next portion I was going to get into about systems and kind of some spare parts, if you will, for the water system, electrical and such. But a Pex Tubing Cutter makes cutting PEX tubing so much easier and cleaner. It's a nice, clean, straight cut. You're not using a hacksaw where you got to clean up the edges. This does it nice and clean, and you're done. And it's certainly easier. And then a pressure relief valve tool. I've talked about that in past episodes about water heater maintenance, a hacksaw, and a tire gauge, whether it's digital or manual. But make sure the tire gauge will go up to the tire pressure of your tires. You know, some of the motorhome tires are 100 pounds plus. Travel trailer tires like mine are 80 pounds, so you know 80 psi. So you got to make sure your gauge will go that high. So again, the list of tools be on the website, radioarizonarv.com, and you want to check that out. Definitely, these things are must-have tools, and you're going to be able to determine how many you need, you know, with sockets and wrenches, you know, how excessive you want to get. If you want to have 5/16 through 1.5 wrenches, it's up to you. You probably don't need that, but you might decide you do, or you already have them and you're just going to throw them in your RV and carry them anyways. But you're going to have to decide some things. You know, a ball peen hammer, do you want to have 1, 2, or 3? You know, it's up to you. What do you think you're going to be working on? What's your skill set? So keep that in mind as we go through this. It's up to you. It's your skill set. You know, what you're comfortable with, or if your spouse is helping you, what he or she is comfortable with, or, you know, your neighbors. You know, we get everybody involved sometimes. So it's a wonderful thing, and I do appreciate Carl sending me this email, because this is a great reminder. I love this because these are things that, you know, I get into. I enjoy doing it, you know, knowing that I'm prepared. In fact, when we go out four-wheeling, some people, they look to me for everything. They go, Eric's got that in his truck. You know, someone's stuck. Someone has a flat. Someone's broke down. Eric has something to fix that in his truck. And 99% of the time, they're right, because I'm prepared. But I don't have, you know, 500 pounds of stuff in my truck either. I have what I need. So that comes with experience. And the more you RV, you might realize I have too many tools here. I need to thin this out a little bit, just like my service van. The other day I was thinking, I have more stuff in here than I need. I need to thin this out a little bit, because the less stuff you have, the less you're sorting through, the less things to lose, less things to just eyeball and have to digest. Will this work? So now, back to this, and with systems. You know, in the RV, you have your electrical system, you have a water system, you know, you have your roof, which in itself is a system. It keeps the rain out, the moisture out. You know, it protects the inside of your RV. Your windows, you know, they're a system in themselves because they can leak. You know, you have flooring, you have your heating system, you have your air conditioning system. So you have all these different systems that require different things. And so when it comes to systems, though, the things I'm going to talk about are pretty much where it's on a weekend, you can't get someone out to fix it. or it's in the middle of the night, you spring a water leak, you want to be able to just take care of it. Maybe not then, but first thing in the morning, and it's going to be early before any stores open. You just want to get taken care of, or you have to get it taken care of, or you're out dry camping. You don't have a choice but to fix it. And without having to, shut down and go back home, or, you're stuck for 12 hours or 48 hours waiting for a store to open up. This is what I'm talking about, these types of things where you can fix kind of an emergency. Because, if your roof is leaking, it's raining out, it doesn't matter if you have sealant to repair it or not. You're still going to have to wait for the rain and the roof to dry before you put lap sealant on it. So there's some things it's not going to matter what's happening, because you're just going to have to wait. And typically, if your roof is leaking and it's, because it's raining out, you're probably going to be in an area where you can be able to fix that and go to a store and buy the proper things, because you're going to have time. It's raining out. It's going to have to dry. The main thing is to just deal with the leak at that moment, figure out what you can do to keep it from getting worse. Or you can put something on the top. Even with a water leak, if you have a water leak and there's no way to fix it, but you need to have your water on, then, work accordingly. Put some towels where that leak might be. Can you put a container underneath there? Can you keep it from spreading and causing any damage or more damage? So one of the things that I always tell people is to carry extra PEX tubing. PEX tubing is the water line in RVs, and it's referred to as PEX tubing because that's a brand. It's also called Quest tubing. There's Quest fittings. These are brands, but it's that type. PEX tubing comes in, it's made by different people, but it's the same principle. It's the rigid tubing. It comes in 3/8, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch diameter. Those are the sizes you're going to find in an RV. And I might add, this is used in a lot of homes nowadays, used in remodels, and there's fittings called Shark Bite fittings, which you get at Home Depot, a place like that. Most RV stores aren't going to sell a Shark Bite fitting, but they'll sell something similar, or they'll sell a flare-it fitting. And flare-it fittings are a compression-type fitting where it compresses onto the PEX tubing, then the other end would go to the toilet, the faucet, or whatever. But you can't go wrong with carrying, an extra 2, 3, 4 or 5 feet of PEX tubing, whether it's 3/8 or 1/2 inch, or all three sizes, 3/8, 1/2, and 3/4. If you get a water leak, a fitting breaks, or the sealant goes bad, and you have to take care of it, and it's the middle of the night or on a weekend, this is one of the worst things to wait for any time to go by if you can fix it yourself, because it's so easy to do. And it might be awkward, it might be behind a toilet or under a faucet, but if you can fix it, you're done with it. And all these water things are probably more awkward to fix than they are hard to fix, because you're trying to get in behind corners, around walls, and things like that. But with the PEX tubing and some basic fittings, like a couple couplers for 1/2 inch and 3/8 that have female pipe thread on both sides, a coupler that has female pipe thread on one side and it goes to PEX on the other side, which any RV store can help you with this stuff. This is things that everybody sells. Having a shutoff valve for the 3/8 and 1/2 inch water line would be a good thing in case you have a leak and you can't fix past the leak, but you could put a shutoff valve in there and turn off the water at that point. Maybe it's a leak going to a toilet or a part of the RV. That way you don't have to shut down the whole RV. There's fittings that can go in line for PEX, where you can put a cap on it and cap off a line. So PEX tubing and some PEX or flare-it fittings are ideal for do-it-yourself repair, an emergency or not. Then, of course, you have the electrical side of the RV where you're going to have fuses. There's many different styles of fuses. We have mini, we have maxi, we have ATO, ATC, which are a common plastic fuse that have been around for decades now. It's what's called the regular fuse anymore. There's micro fuses. So there's a lot of fuses. So you have to see what your RV has. Most of them are going to have ATO, ATC, some maxis. A lot of, vehicles now have maxi fuses in them. Then there's going to be the mini fuses. And you don't want to go out and buy an assortment pack of 500 fuses. You only need a few of them. You might find an assortment pack that'll work for your case, but just make sure that what fuses you have. Mini, maxi, ATO, ATC. ATO and ATC look identical. And if fuse goes bad, you can fix that. Not a problem. Not that fuses are blowing all the time, but when they do, it's a quick fix. And generally, if a fuse blows more than once, you got a problem. You have a short somewhere. And along with the electrical, you're going to have some wire ties. Some people call them zip ties, to tie things back. They're good in an emergency situation too, sometimes for tying up something real quick. They're pretty stout and sturdy. They usually have to be cut off. But, tying up wires, getting them out of your way, cleaning up an installation, keeping electrical tape on hand. If you have to put in some, electrical connections outside, it's always nice to tape them up real good. And I shouldn't say outside, but in an environment where they might get wet or moist. Electrical tape, a battery terminal cleaner, a wire brush sometimes will work on all batteries. They do have battery terminal cleaners specific for battery types. You might want to invest one of those if it'll work with all your batteries, or, analyze it. But even a wire brush, a small wire brush, will work great for almost all battery terminals. Might be kind of awkward at times, but it'll work. Duct tape. Here's something that I think I said electrical tape, but duct tape. Duct tape, a roll should last you a lifetime. It shouldn't become the fix-all tape. I see it on awnings all the time, or the Gorilla tape. This stuff is the worst thing in the world to use for any lasting period of time because it leaves this residue on everything. It generally dries up and it creates a mess. Only use duct tape if you absolutely have to, and remove it as soon as possible. Don't let it become this ugly glob of mess on your RV or your awning or wherever you use it. Always try to use tape that when you remove it, there's no residue. Teflon tape goes back to our PEX tubing and the water systems. You want to have Teflon tape, and if you're using propane or changing propane lines or fittings and you need to use a tape on there, you want to use a tape that's made for gas, which that tape is generally yellow. It's generally 4 or 5 times more expensive than Teflon tape, but it's made for propane and gas systems, so don't skimp there. Spray lubricant, having an assortment of screws and nuts and bolts for your RV, and that doesn't mean you have to go to Home Depot and spend $300 on nuts and bolts. You only need a few, maybe 1/4-inch nuts, some 1/4-inch bolts. Every RV is a little bit different. I'm just kind of thinking of the things that I use kind of on a regular basis where I'm going into our service van, getting things out, or customers come in looking for. So it's not big, gigantic bolts. It's not big, gigantic nuts and washers. It's the smaller stuff for awnings, furnaces. Something comes loose, a nut falls off that's holding a bracket on somewhere. It's basic things. And the screws, though, like, square tip screws, some 1/4-inch hex head screws, self-tapping ones are great. Those seem to be pretty common. You want to install something, or something's loosens up and the screw's a little short. You want to put a longer screw, but you don't have to have hundreds of them. If you have just a few of each, if you go to, Swap Me, someplace like that, they sell that stuff, by the weight or whatever. I don't know. You just have to figure that out how you want to get them, but you don't need gobs of them. You just need a few. In fact, most of the time when someone comes in our store looking for screws, they only need 1 or 2. Hey, my fender skirt came off and I just need 4 of these screws. Do you have them? So you kind of have to muddle through that. If you take something off your RV, you're replacing it, you save some of the old screws. So a lot of people do. There's nothing wrong with that, because when you need that screw, you need it. Hose clamps are great, for your water system. In an emergency, a hose clamp might work on PEX tubing, but most importantly for your engine or non-high pressure water systems, if you've added something in and you're using the soft, pliable water hose, maybe to a water pump, a hose clamp will work for that. Under the hood, if you have a Class A motorhome, even on a pickup truck, having a couple clamps or hose clamps isn't a bad thing. Of course, rags and paper towels to wipe things up, keep your hands clean, wipe stuff off. If you got something leaking out, you need something to absorb it. And, paper towels are cheap. You can get those blue ones that are like work paper towels and or work rag paper towels, and they work pretty good. So that's kind of, there's a lot to this. I mean, as you're listening, you're probably going, oh, this guy's just going to ramble on about everything under the sun here. But, I can't get into all of it. I'm just trying to cover some ground here. But look at your RV and think about how you travel, where you go, and the things that you might come across, or the things that your fellow RVers encounter that you talk to, maybe at an RV park. They just pull in, they tell you the things that happened. Were they prepared? Did they have a roadside emergency? Roadside emergencies don't happen that often, but sometimes just pulling over to take care of something else, you might be there for an hour or two. It's not always a flat tire or an engine breaking down. So, do you have flares, whether the type, the stick type that actually have a flame that comes out, a small flame, or do you have LED type, which are what really you should have? They just work great. They're not dangerous. You don't have to worry about starting a fire or burning anything. Carry some extra batteries, and they're tough. They work nice, the LED types of flares. Cones, the reflective triangles. You can get small cones now today, or reflective triangles like what the truck drivers use. You see a semi pulled over the road, they got those reflective rectangles or triangles, out on the highway. You can't miss them. And they do that for a reason, because it's safe. And they don't want to get hit. They don't want their truck hit. And you should have the same attitude with an RV. You don't want to get hit, someone running into you. And some of these things you won't use that often, but when you do need it, especially at nighttime, and you have a flat or a breakdown or stuck on the side of the road, you want to be prepared for it. You want to have a flashlight. You want to have a fire extinguisher. If you need to lay on the ground, or you're changing a spare, or you're putting on a new tire, your spare tire, you have a ground cloth you can put on the ground. It might be hot out, it might be cold out, it might be wet out. It might be extremely dirty, muddy. Do you want to get filthy? The less damage you can impact on yourself or your clothing or the RV when you get back in it, you're going to be covered in mud, but you're just glad to get on the road and you jump in the driver's seat. Little things like that take a few extra moments, but it's well worth it, especially if the ground is icy cold or free, or boiling hot. You don't want to burn yourself, and it just makes it nice. It's easier to do. You can set stuff on your tools on the cloth and you can see them. So roadside emergencies are, they're kind of a game in themselves. Be prepared. Have the right thing so you're visible. And remember, pull off to the road far enough so you can't get hit, but don't go too far where you're off into the dirt and could possibly get stuck, or a whole nother situation starts from there. But be prepared for it. Have your stuff in one spot, where everybody in an RV knows where it is, so everybody can help. So it's not just one person struggling to get this done. Of course, there's miscellaneous things, rope, bungee cords, work gloves, scissors, a small shovel, maybe a 3-foot spade type shovel, 4-foot. Some people get the military type ones that fold up. I want to use one of those. I'd get a longer one with a handle on it, maybe 4 feet long or 3 feet long. Pocket knife, a 7-foot aluminum ladder. If you have an RV and you got to get on the roof, there's certain times you got to do maintenance. If you have the place to hang it on a ladder rack or a bike rack, or you can put it in storage, if you have a basement model type RV, a 6 or 7 foot aluminum ladder, always a must have. Then also, all RVs have awnings on them, and RV awnings are notorious for unfurling or unraveling or unrolling while you're traveling down the road. You get a heavy wind and the fabric starts billowing out. They're designed not to do that, but sometimes those design mechanisms break and the fabric will come out. Be prepared for that. And I'm not saying go to the extreme, because I'm going to suggest having a box cutter to remove the fabric if needed. A sharp knife, you can get up there and just cut that fabric off and be done with it. The roller tube will want to unroll all the way, and that'll probably startle you, but at least that fabric's done and you can keep traveling. That's in an emergency if you absolutely have to do that. But Velcro straps to tie the arms closed on a patio awning if they're coming loose. Wire ties to do the same thing, tie up those arms. Tools in general to remove the awning. I've talked to so many people where they've actually taken the awning off on the side of the road, and then somehow they get it in their RV, or they tie it on the roof, the roller tube, and they, get to where they're going, then they start dealing with it. And that makes sense. If you can do that, if you got a problem awning, there's no point in being stuck with that. If you can take it off, by all means, take it off. But remember, when you cut that fabric, it's going to cost you more money, but it might save you money by not causing more damage to your RV or to the awning itself. So I've been going on now for about 30 minutes. My voice is getting raspier. Ever since I've been sick early this year, just my voice isn't coming back, so I'm going to call it quits here. I think we've covered it, though. There's a lot of things to carry, and like I said, it'll be on the website, radioarizonarv.com, under episode 35. And look at the list, check it out, determine what you have, what you need, and adjust as you go. It's not a all-inclusive list. It's not the list to die for or to die by. It's just a list, things that I think, would definitely be helpful. And I'm going to add and subtract as time goes on, make it more inclusive, break it down more by categories as well. So, hey, I want to thank everybody for listening again to Radio Arizona RV, episode number 35. And keep those emails coming. I love the ideas. Every idea that I've gotten has been worth an episode, and I'm building a list on them, so I'm going to tackle them one by one. So the next email I get will be one more item that I'm going to do, and of course, they keep coming, so the list is growing. So again, thank you. And I want to thank you again for listening to Radio Arizona RV.